Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize for coming in late. I actually was in another committee hearing dealing with data security and financial services, and it just happened to be two areas of key interest of mine are going on at the same time. I've often said recently that blockchain technology, in my opinion, of having 30 years in the IT industry, is a potential solution to our cybersecurity risk that we have, which are significant and real. My concern is that the federal government, especially from the regulatory side, is always afraid of adopting something new because they don't understand it. And I'm seeing a lot of fear even among some of my colleagues because they're equating the technology behind cryptocurrency as the cryptocurrency itself. And I think this is something that we need to look at. We need to consider as a potential solution to our cybersecurity challenges we have right now. Mr. Cuomo, am I off base with that, or do you think that this is a potential solution? The technology, the blockchain technology, is a solution.
I mean, it's not a silver bullet, but it's certainly used in the right places could help in a significant way. We talked about digital identity, and I think that's core to so many industries and government. So getting a handle in the right areas, not having honeypots of data,
right.
Doing digital rights management where end users could actually manage their own data versus keeping it under one house, one honeypot. I think that will go a long way. It won't eliminate the problem, but it'll change the attack surface.
Well, the way I've always looked at cybersecurity is it's impossible, as I think you said earlier, it's impossible to have an ultimately secured system. In fact, I remember when I was in the military and intelligence, a set of standards were set out. The standards are so stringent that once the system was built to actually meet the security standards, it was unusable because it was so slow. I mean, there's two aspects of cybersecurity I've looked at. When I had my private business in the IT realm, we looked at security in the way of you can't ultimately secure yourself. It's to make it harder for the bad guy to get your data. It was like the two Georgians went hiking in Alaska, and a grizzly bear started chasing them. One of them sat down and put on his tennis shoes. The other one said, "You can't outrun the bear." He said, "I don't have to. I just have to outrun you." That's kind of the way cybersecurity is, to make you harder than the other guy. And that's where I see the blockchain is it isn't the silver bullet, but it does make it much more difficult to find the honeypot. And in our environment today, and I have issues with the honeypots as well, not only is there a honeypot, but because of our interest in data backup, we have multiple honeypots sitting out in clouds. And if you get into one, it's not that hard to backdoor to get into another one somewhere. The other aspect of cybersecurity, and if anybody is welcome to weigh in on this one, is one of the areas we overlook is a key principle we had when I was in the military, which was you do not have to secure what you don't have. It's the amount of data that we are keeping, sometimes that the government, through regulation, forcing businesses to keep data that isn't that valuable, they don't need to keep, or the government forcing industry to report data to the government, which, in my opinion, the government's the highest risk of anybody out there. Is that something that we should be addressing, is the amount of data that we're requiring businesses to and entities to keep on individuals? Anybody can weigh in on that one.
Well, from the NIST perspective, our cybersecurity approach has always been management of risk, something I know from your background you understand very well. And in this case, what you alluded to, this idea of data minimization, is one aspect of managing risk. There's no question that is an appropriate tool. Other tools involve, excuse me, management of privacy risk, the idea of trying to ensure that you've satisfied the 5 functions that we talk about in the cybersecurity framework: the identify your assets, protect them, detect when they've been compromised or attacked, respond to that, and then have a plan for recovery in the event that a breach actually occurs. Okay. So it's risk management is our approach.
Well, I think to get to where we need to be is going to take a culmination of a lot of things, but I continue to see that the blockchain technology, because of how it disperses the data, I know there's some challenges, especially when it comes to law enforcement and some other aspects, but I think we do not need to be afraid of the new technology, but figure out how to adopt it. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you. I recognize